Hello and welcome to the Place of Wrath and Tears. We are back in Las Vegas and we are here to cause problems. With me tonight are two of the Van Horsts. Kate, who plays Bethany Van Horst, was very busy this weekend, and she had a fabulous, exciting life, and that fabulous, exciting life kicked her ass. So, which is well and good. So, it is going to be a date night, for better or for worse, for these two tonight. But so what I'd like to do is just to get into the swing of things and saying hi. I'd like you guys to introduce yourselves, give us your character name, and then when you do that, let's roll your disaster dice if you have any, whatever disadvantage you're supposed to start at the beginning of the game, and we'll go from there. So, Erica?
Sure. I'm Erica, she, her. I'm playing Clara Van Horst, also she, her. And I don't, at the moment, I think, have any disaster dice other than maybe involuntary medium. That is a new thing on my sheet since the last time, since we went below ground and touched the underworld, and Clara did some things, and Bethany ate the addiction out of her soul, leaving some gaping wound in her soul that now things can enter sometimes.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Everything is fine. Don't worry about that. That's
it is
good.
Fine.
That's going to heal right over.
Yeah.
It's like when you get like little staples, it's fine.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll just fall out. Yes.
But
no, that is whenever you encounter spiritual entities or haunted places, is going to be that when that rears its ugly head.
I think that's not here right now.
Yes, which is fine.
And I already know that Matthew desires me, so no need to roll object of desire.
Yeah, he rolled a 2 on that when he was like 14,
a long time ago,
and it hasn't gotten better since.
So I'm good.
Great.
I still have the nightmares. I'm Elon. I play Matthew Van Horst. I feel like I'm like at a, Nightmares Anonymous meeting now. But so I will roll for my nightmares.
Oh boy, you're making the face.
So that's a 6.
Ooh.
Matthew.
Getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah. That's okay. We can work with that. We can work with anything that happens. Let me just make sure. Interim, jealousy. Misleading page number. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll handle that briefly, and then we will get into the scene that we planned on. So, a brief content warning specifically for tonight. There is going to be a higher than standard amount of like sex as a tool and weapon related conversations. So, the very squishy stuff is going to be fade to black, but there is going to be some conversation, some flirting, some use of sexuality and seduction as a tool for manipulation. So, if that's a pizza roll thing for you, maybe go find your bag. So. Matthew, you are dirty. And you are not dirty in that there's kinds of dirty. There's a clean person who has dirt on them, which is there is a person who is like inundated with filth. You are dirty in a way that takes decades to develop. You are dirty in a way that requires a absence of access to clean bathing water and whatever the various soaps and cleansers that a culture could have. You are absent those things, and it is to Matthew, it is terrible. To whatever is happening to you, it is something that you're used to, though. So there we go. So, and you also feel something terrible in your face. There are things under your skin. Thankfully, they're not crawling. They seem to be solid and immobile, but you feel like you've been beaten up because you have that like swollen, uncomfortable feeling under your skin, but it is not a new one. It is an older sensation. This is just the way you feel. And you wake up in your hovel, and it is a thing made with skins and extremely rough cloth. And the cloth is strange because the threads have been made from multiple sources. It is not, so it's very much a scavenged kind of cloth. And it is yours. You recognize some of your little trinkets that you have. Your favorite napped stone knife is sitting next to the bed, wrapped in the skin of the creature that you killed. And you take it up into your hand instinctually because there is a racket outside. There is a noise, there is a furor. And Matthew does not notice as you stand yourself up and go outside. And once you go outside, you'll be able to do some piloting. But the camera notices that the floor underneath where your hand has kind of swept a moment is a glistening, iridescent metal. When you walk outside, you find yourself in a recessed pit, maybe 20 feet high, and above it there is a arching bridge that looks like something out of a classic Superman comic.
I know where I am.
Yeah. And on that bridge is the golden creature that you know is your leader, and a couple other smaller creatures that are like you but not like you. And one of your friends comes up to you, his face made expressionless by the stones that have been shoved underneath it. And because of this, the way your people express emotion is largely stance and gesture based. So he makes the gestures that say confused excitement. Can you see what's happening? Why is everyone so upset?
How cognizant is Matthew of that he is him, and like how much does he understand that he is him, and how much is he fully enmeshed?
It probably feels a little bit like a disassociative episode, in that like you're definitely like first and a half person out. You can feel that there are things that are happening that you're not going to be able to control, but you're also able to make minor decisions, like looking certain places, moving a certain way. But there is an inevitability here, and it is an inevitability, Matthew Van Horst, that you are responsible for.
I feel like there's a situation in this where, he reciprocates the confusion, the excitement, the uncertainty. But then there's that part of him, the part of him that knows exactly what's going to happen, the part of him who knows who those people are and what they will do, that is just screaming at this body to run for the sides, to get out. And I don't think it moves. The body continues on because no one did get out that way, and they don't get to in this dream. And he doesn't get to in this dream.
You're right, they don't. And the creatures converse, and they are generally the general vibe is that of optimism, because they do know that they, including you, they have a very solid, respectable warrior caste. And so, they have protectors and hunters, and they have people that go out into what they call the great city to go hunting for food and trinkets and things. But, so they would expect the Golden One to give them a command or raise an alarm were something dangerous happening. But he has not. It has not. And so there is no alarm, and time shudders around you. Almost, if you could imagine a camera facing a stage during a practice, and so they do a scene and then they want to do a different scene in a different piece in the play, and so the scenery changes and the people walk around, and it has that sort of changing moment, and you are sitting around a cook fire, and what you are doing is, this is not really a thing that you do well, is this food preparation, because it requires a different kind of mind than this body has. This body is a tracker and a hunter, and it likes being in motion. It can focus for almost an infinite amount of time as long as it's moving. But the challenge of sitting still and not being able to be moving in a direction to accomplish your goal, and very calmly and patiently flip over this giant twisted insect that is being cooked over an open fire very slowly as food, because if you cook it too fast, it pops, and then all the nutrition is down. So essentially you're flame poaching a bug, which is a whole ass problem. But there is laughter. Generally, this is a day that it seems that at least your small group of this place has a more than adequate amount of food. There's some excitement about that. This is their version of bounty. And there's a little bit of chatter because this insect, this big critter, had a long strip of eggs along its underside, and that is a rarity. And they are as excited about that as Matthew Van Horst has been excited about things like uni or caviar. The a delicacy that we have no control over when it shows up has arrived. What a delightful thing. What a lovely thing for us today. And lifelong relationships don't happen amongst this people. There is not a breeding, is it a breeding pair? No, it's a three-sexed species, or at least reproduction requires three. And so that creates a lot of open, freewheeling, sort of negotiated relationships that change shape as the moment happens. But you see some of your fellows that you have been interested in and excited to discuss those things with, and one of them, their stance and the hand gestures they make at you definitely are indicative that they also would like to have those conversations and figure things out. So it is a good day for your body until the Golden One's voice screams in your head that they are here to kill us and that they must be destroyed. And it screams in your mind with an incredible, overwhelming, dominating force. And it is not a call to action. It is a activation of programming. This voice reaches down deep into the lizard brain, the amoeba brain, the genetic level of these creatures, and says, obey. And in that moment, the body that you're riding, their thoughts are gone. Only this instinctual, robotic problem solving related to obeying that command. And the last thing in this moment that you remember is the distinct fizzling hiss pop of that bounty overcooking and cracking, and the juices running down the cooking apparatus. And the next scene, its length depends entirely on how well Clara can keep it together.
Oh. All right. Oh, 14. So, pretty well.
14 total?
Yeah.
Okay. You know the scene, Matthew. You know the hallway because you saw it from kind of a third-person perspective. And so when the floor shifts and changes and explodes into tessellating, fractal, rending edges, you know what's coming. And you know it is a dream, and you desperately try to climb out of it, and you need to get away because you are almost entirely certain that if you are still riding this body, when the floor opens up and grinds it into vitriol, that your thoughts will also be black and acid. And there are your friends, the person that you thought and hoped could be your lover continues with a twitching kind of desperate motion, making the terror gestures as it crawls across the floor. And you watch it get drawn down. And as the shredding floor begins to lash your shins and catch a hold of your skin with tiny, tiny fractal-edged grip and start to pull you into the ground, you feel a strange sideways shudder that's making your body rock back and forth. And then, thankfully, possibly blessedly, you wake up, and the shaking is now Clara shaking you from a dream that you were speaking in an unknown language and growling and snarling. And there you go.
Matthew. Darling. You're muted.
Get me out.
You're out. You're here. You're awake. It's all right.
He clings to her.
Yeah.
It like as if he is still trying to claw his way out of a hole.
She just touches his hair and down the back of his neck and just lets him touch every inch of her, and she is touching every inch of his skin she can feel. And it's just, you're here. We're in the hotel. We're together. You're fine. I am here. Everything is fine. Just take a breath.
He presses his forehead against hers, hard enough that it's not pleasant, but it is clearly a gesture of grounding. And just for a short period of time lets himself be weak and just clutch onto her.
She kind of rolls over and gathers him up in her arms and just kind of buries him against her chest and her neck, so he's entirely wrapped up in her and in her breath and her skin and the beat of her heart, and she just holds him there. I'm here. I'm alive. We're both fine. This is real. Just breathe with me. This is real. I don't know what you saw, but it's just a dream.
He slowly lets his breathing calm down, and as she talks about how it's not real and how it was just a dream, and he thinks very, very much about how this was absolutely real once, and how of the three of them, the only person who showed true compassion to these beings was Clara. He looks at her and says, "You're right. It's not real."
It's not?
Sorry to have woken you up that way.
It's all right. We've been doing this since you moved in.
You haven't in quite some time. I'm glad.
No, things got better when since we've been able to spend more time together. I got better. I'm sorry you haven't.
He cups her cheek. Maybe it will be a matter of time.
I hope
as long
so.
as we're together.
Hope so.
Let's get some coffee.
Coffee. Breakfast. We have to make phone calls. We have
A lot to do.
a long day.
Yes.
The last comment to make on this scene is that as you both, disentangle from each other, and Matthew, you throw the sheets off, there's a very brief sensation that's right on the edge of pain across your shins. And when you investigate, there's a strange texture to your skin. Upon further inspection, you feel the tiny, tiny little shreds of skin that those fractal jaws had started to clasp you by. It is not a wound. It requires no care. It will heal on its own, just like any other, very shallow depth abrasion. But what would it be like to have those infinitely reductive things inside you, pulling you apart?
That is... Matthew is very, very careful to make sure that Clara does not touch his shin.
Okay.
He is not in like a, draws away, but he lets her see them so that she can see that he's not bleeding. But he doesn't want her to see how close he was to being injured. Because there is definitely still a part of him that feels that he should be better. She's gotten better. Why hasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
It's time. It just takes time. And if you're actually hurt, maybe it's targeting you. Something. You're the most important one here, you know that. Without you, we fall. So that means the biggest target's on your back.
Without me, we fall, but without you, just be careful of yourself. They start turning their eyes.
I know. I'm fine. I'm better than I've been in a very long time.
Glad. Before he goes to get the shower ready, he will do what he has been doing for a while now, ever since they had their sort of final conversation about it, and put his hand on Clara's stomach in a very possessive fashion and give her a kiss and set things up in the shower.
It feels like months, almost years since you found out that she was pregnant. But
it feels like such a long time, even though it's been so short.
Yes. Yeah, time is wibbly wobbly.
Mm-hmm.
And so what amount your 1950s male education on the process of pregnancy, yes, like you get the cigars with the blue wrapper for a boy, you get the cigars with a pink wrapper for a girl.
Baby made baby happen at some point.
Yeah,
Women know how to do this.
Yeah. And that there's a very good chance that at some point in like maybe 6 or 7 months, the doctor's going to prescribe bed rest or something equally vague. So you aren't entirely certain if she should be showing, because I don't think she should be, at least on my vague napkin math. We'll say time isn't real. We'll say she shouldn't be showing at all, and every da. But which hand do you put on her belly?
Which one do you think?
The Metropolis hand?
Oh yeah, 100% is the Metropolis hand.
Yeah.
Like, there was no question. We gotta make this the worst possible way.
Child's gonna be king. The perfect ruler.
I try to be a very organized like horror storyteller with my shit together with like good tones and calm voices, but there's just the seagulls screaming mine in my head, and that's all I'm hearing.
I mean, you're not wrong.
No. It's okay. Clara, you should probably see the appropriate doctors at some point. Whenever you go back to Pittsburgh, you'll go back to the doctors and you'll get a recommendation. You're a Van Horst. You'll call him at 8:00 and you'll have an appointment wherever you need to see at 9.
Yeah. No, she's definitely not showing, but I think when they get ready for their fancy dinner tonight, it's going to be the first time that some of those really tight dresses she likes to wear don't really fit right. That's going to be bringing it home.
Okay. as we've talked about before, you set the tone and tenor for that.
Yeah.
So however much of that you want to play with, you can.
We'll see how tonight's conversation goes.
Okie dokie.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, who do you want to have dinner with?
So I think the course of the day is kind of going to be Matthew making phone calls back home, Clara making some phone calls about starting the review, and eventually a phone call is made to the Westsmiths.
Yeah. Because Matthew's got to make sure that things are set up for home because we do want to go home at some point. That is a thing that we need to do. We've been away for too long.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Even if we're coming back for the review. But I think that we need to find more information and more power here. And to do that, we know people who have shown interest in taking us under their wing, so to speak. And the last time people tried to take us under their wing, we brutally murdered them. And let's be honest, there is a chance that we'll do the same here, but manipulate and take from them certainly is the goal.
Okay.
Probably not. Like, there's a reason why Bethany isn't here right now, other than obviously out of character reasons. And we'll say that's because we don't want to brutally murder them at this time.
Yeah. It will be interesting to further examine how Bethany was affected by those journeys. But
I think that having access to the West Holmes, their knowledge and their power, is something that we need to be able to start working on.
It's logical. The Westsmiths were a member of the Royal Phoenix Society.
Yeah.
And, your sample size is fairly low, but you've been to one of their chapter houses and your father was one before he went off before he went rogue. And it was very obvious to you that they had an amount of occult knowledge. And so, everything, the choices that you're making make sense given the information you have. Is there anything specific you'd like to talk about at home and for the review, or is it just doing the undefined necessaries? Is there something in mind particular that you had at the moment?
Well, we didn't exactly leave it comfortable with them the last time. It's been a long time since we have, as players and as audience, talked to them.
Yeah.
I feel like addressing where we left it.
Erica, you're very smart. You're absolutely right. Thank you for that.
Is not a poor choice. No.
So let us remember where we encountered the Westsmiths and under what circumstances. The Westsmiths were met the first time at a brutal underground fighting ring, and that you guys took David out and let him cut loose. And you found out that David cutting loose is a terrifying, brutal, murderous thing. And you also found out that Westsmith was a cousin to people that you killed in Pittsburgh as members of the Phoenix Society. Mm-hmm. You found out that he is a terrible, violent man, prone to anger, possibly rages, and that also Clara snagged his degenerate attention very fast. And she was getting along with Mrs. Westsmith until she decided to play up on her husband's interest in front of her, and that was a faux pas that soured her opinion of you. And then that was pretty much the last time you guys made contact. Oh yeah, the club.
I was about to say
the club.
Club.
NOP. Yep.
The club.
So yeah, you went to a private mafia-owned club and drank a little bit, schmoozed a little. Matthew, I believe you did a sterling job of recovering from your very first attempt at doing the high Hawaiias in the Western United States. You did a much better job there and made some friends.
Mhm.
And that was also the beginning of Salazari, the mafia lieutenant.
We
Salvatore.
began that in the
Yes.
the brutalness, but we got like to a better place with that, with
Mhm.
the also brutalness, but brutalness in a different way.
Yes. Yes, you definitely began and then went a good deal down the path of drawing him away from the West Smiths as a useful tool. And then at the end of the night, there was a after hours show of terrific and debauched violence and degradation involving West Smith brutalizing a woman who looked far, far, far too much like Clara for anyone's comfort. And I believe that is the last time we saw the West Smiths.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably, a handful of weeks ago?
Yep.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think, was Miss West Smith ever there?
I don't think.
I don't remember us seeing her.
I don't believe she was.
Okay. Because that is also a point.
I think specifically she wasn't there.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So we haven't left it at an animosity point, but there's tension there between Matthew swaying Salvatore Clemenza more to our side, the wife not really loving me, and that demonstrated act of power, and Royal Phoenix Society gonna Royal Phoenix Society and do some debauched shit to a human being in the name of power demonstration. That's where we left it. So that afternoon, once we have done our personal business, Claire's just going to suggest we should call the West Smiths and suggest a dinner. A perfectly civilized, lovely dinner to catch up as the respectable couple of people that we are.
We can have it on in a place that I can pull some strings to get us at, so that we're showing that we have power in the city that they might not necessarily, or at least equal power to what they have.
That would be wise. I think with the review starting to build, with my own contacts starting to build here, and their club going well enough, but if they're genuinely interested in building some sort of power for the Royal Phoenix Society and themselves, they will need to be in our good graces.
Yes.
And we need to demonstrate that.
You know that one of them certainly wants to be in your very good graces.
Oh, I know. And you know that it'll be useful. And I can use him that way, and I will. I know you don't want me to.
If I could think of a better option. I don't like this. I don't like when you put yourself in this place. You're better than that.
He's the one that's making that choice. And frankly, with the way he acted at the club and the way he looks at me, if I turn him down, it will be a danger. He will come after me. I
I'm
know
not-
that look in men's eyes, Matthew.
I don't want you to degrade yourself, is what I'm saying.
Matthew, I'm a woman and I'm an actress. I've been degrading myself my entire life. It's sort of an art form, frankly.
But you're not a whore, Clara.
No, of course not.
I'm just saying that I'm not going to treat you as such. Do you understand?
I'm not treating myself as such either. I'm using him. I'm giving a dog a treat so he sits up and does the tricks I need him to do on command. Let us see how dinner goes. If I can manage this without ever needing to bed him, all the better. Bedding him will destroy our relationship with his wife. And I'd rather not have to kill or destroy the woman entirely just to get this situation under control.
I will restrain my reactions to this as much as I can.
I love you. I am yours and no one else's. You know that.
I do, but he certainly doesn't.
If there was any way in the world, Matthew, if I could marry you tomorrow and I could hold your hand walking down the street and I could wear your wedding ring and I could be yours, if I could, I would. I want that. I want us to get the fuck out of this world and to Metropolis and be done with this so I can be your queen and we can rule together and be the people that we are, and our child can stand proud with both this baby's parents together. And we can't do that here unless we just want to say fuck it and destroy everything. We can't.
This is what we're going to always remind ourselves when this place starts feeling less like a cage, Clara. That we can't be what we should be. Because you're not wrong. You're correct. And I feel the same way. I want to be with you. I want to stand with you as my queen. I hate that I can't speak up as your husband when men put their eyes on you like they own you. Because you were mine.
I'm yours. But I am very good at being very, very desirable. And there is a power that comes with desire. And being an object just slightly out of somebody's reach. And an object that they need more and more and more, just a little bit more every day. And I will use that power to get us home. Not to Pittsburgh. To our true home. If that means I have to fuck a dog named Alistair Westsmith, then I will. Because it's just petting a dog on the head and telling him good boy until he's used up and done.
Matthew will step closer to her and put his hand on her cheek. Then Clara, before we go tonight, I'm going to make sure that every inch of you knows whose you actually are.
You say very beautiful things.
And then they wreck the room.
Yes, and then they wreck the room.
So, yeah. So the specifics of that, I think we will leave to the imagination. But I do want to ask a couple of non-mechanical questions about that. Is this the first time that these two have had sex since returning from their travel, or?
I would say we only returned like 2 days ago, and we were like exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably
Since returning from travel. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I'm just asking for flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think I'm going to table that question.
Now I'm so
I'm curious.
Okay, what I was thinking is Matthew leaving any marks that Clara would have to attempt to cover up?
Oh, I already thought of this.
Okay.
Matthew knows Clara's dresses. So the answer is yes, but they are like when Clara dresses for everything being fancy, she will notice that they are like perfectly positioned such that she doesn't even need to put on makeup for it.
That's gross. I love it.
It's the sort of thing that someone who only, I don't know, obsessively looks at Clara all the time would really know about her wardrobe. That no matter which one of her fancy dresses she chooses, everything's perfect.
Yep. Nobody pays attention like terrible people.
It's sweet in its way.
Yeah.
We'll go with that's what Matthew thinks it is.
She wanted to be marked. She fully knew what she was getting into. So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
I'd like to also roll my influential friends to get like the best place possible.
I love it. Do it.
Because like there's an aspect there of like wanting to kind of show like, oh, you haven't heard what we've been doing for a while? Well, clearly we've been not in some sort of weird alternate reality, but instead making our way downtown that you just didn't hear about.
Yeah.
That is...
Oh, you didn't hear?
A 14 plus charisma, so 16.
Your friends can arrange for what you want. Well, that's a pretty unambiguous description. So give me a rough description of the kind of place you want to be at tonight.
So he's going for old money.
Okay.
He's going for a place that is known to have like very high class clientele, but specifically that caters towards those, because there's like the new money old money thing that like happens, and that's harder to find in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know on an out of character level whether or not there were at least some places that catered to that class in Las Vegas, but if there are, that is what he's looking for.
I would say that it is inarguable that there are places that cater only to the haves as opposed to the have-nots.
Yeah.
The exact nature of that is, I don't know, but for tonight, we can assume that it is...
It's not in a hotel, and it's off the strip.
Yeah.
It is a small, like, 6-table old Italian restaurant with like 5-star chef, has a
Yeah.
single seating because you are welcome. You are going to sit there and eat and drink the entire night.
Yes.
You are going to spend in 1950s money $200 a head.
Yep.
But that's where it is. It is quiet. It is dark.
Yeah. It's all of those beautiful places that they filmed for the Godfather movies.
Yes, exactly.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I still can't get over how much Elon looks like Michael Corleone in The Godfather 2.
I haven't actually seen The Godfather 2, so now I need to look this up on our break.
Oh, it's so good.
Elon.
It's so good
It's so good.
and accurate. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, the music is very light. The service is impeccable and silent. And yes, you are set up. Your reservations shockingly short notice have been made. And it is a sign of two things, Matthew, that this works out. It is one, a sign of the hard work that you have done, kissing hands and shaking babies since you've gotten here. And also, Clara, you don't know if Matthew notices it, but there is a presence in him in this moment that is something that wasn't there before you left. There is, it borders on impatience to start with, but after you listen to the couple of phone calls he's made and the conversations he's had, you realize that it's not impatience, it is inevitability. Matthew's expectations are freight trains.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a force to that Matthew did not have when he left. He is still a suave negotiator, and a skilled one at that, and those skills come into play. But there is a certain amount of when Matthew says, I want, that it feels like things move to bring it about.
Once he secures the reservation, after Clara witnesses that, she ends up tossing him in bed again.
Fair enough. Fair enough, brah. Like,
yeah,
Power's hot. Power's hot. She can't. Hard to resist.
Yeah.
that's valid.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? Absolute power seduces. Absolute power seduces absolutely. I think that's the line. Yeah. Well,
that's all right. They can be 10 minutes late for the Westmiths.
Yeah, it's fine.
Show
Matthew might fall asleep during dinner, but it'll be okay. Have you two worn yourselves out enough that you're ready to go to dinner, or is there anything else that you'd like to do?
I feel like if they do more, they won't be able to like get to dinner on time.
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes late is one thing. Actually missing dinner because you were fucking your sister too much is like probably too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course it is. All right. So
they are 10 minutes late, and Clara is a little bit harrowed because she does have to go through 2 to 3 dresses, not to hide the marks. Matthew was very good at putting the marks in the right places, but because they are just a little tight around the chest and around the hips. Like, she's not showing that things are not fitting the way they used to. And it's that mixed look in the mirror of excitement and well, this is happening. Okay. And so she finds one that is the one that I'm wearing, that fits fine. But that delays them. And it is normally Clara is a grab a dress. She knows exactly what she is going to wear. So this is a rarity that she doesn't get it right on the first dress.
Matthew's like surprised, but also has no understanding of why.
Of what's going on?
Yeah, he's like, man, I don't know why she took so long. I have like an extra thing of whiskey. I'm sure it's like women things, but like he doesn't like understand.
Yes.
like what she's actually going through on a proper level.
Fair enough. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, they do make it to the restaurant mostly on time.
Mostly on time. Yeah. What is interesting. Okay. What is interesting is that when you guys arrive, the West Smiths arrive maybe a minute after you.
Oh, I see.
Huh.
And it is far, far too impeccably timed to be an accident.
Yeah.
And it is clear that the posturing has begun. And so their car pulls up, and their driver gets out and goes around and opens the door and hands them out and does all of that. Did you guys bring David with you tonight?
I would say yes, he's our driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's also our murder machine, but like, right now he's
He's our driver.
important. He's our driver too, so that's
Yes.
important. We're not going to drive ourselves. Good Lord.
God, no. The indignity. Yeah, David is... Without getting too deep into it, I think the word to describe David tonight is impeccable.
Mhm.
There's a verve to him tonight. There's a flash to him that wasn't there before.
Does it seem like it's part of because of sort of his role in this, or because of something else?
It doesn't... the way he acted after he got a chance to kill someone was a little bit kind of like just had good sex, a little bit just had a really good night's sleep, a little bit like I'm jaunty because I'm rested or satiated or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This is that he has elevated his level of attention to the job, where it's those very small things that you didn't really realize were missing until he started doing them. There's a difference between opening the door, offering Clara his hand, helping her out of the vehicle, but there's a certain kind of posture and pose and the correct angles and all of those tiny little things that you haven't been doing that, have you? And apparently you know how to do those things.
That's a conversation for later.
Yes, it is.
But Matthew definitely files that away in his head. He's like, he will, of course, Matthew is going to put on all of the Van Horst etiquette, right? Like what they have been raised and steeped in since childhood. When he greets the West Smith, when he stands, he'll do the whole thing of you stand from the table when you meet someone, gesture down, come. And the way that he's doing it is as if he is welcoming them to his restaurant, essentially, it's the same sort of postures and things when you're welcoming someone to your home or something like that. Come to my place. This is so lovely. I'm so glad to have you here.
So not a thank you for meeting me for dinner, but thank you for coming over for dinner.
Of course. It's so lovely that we're seeing you here in my place of power.
Power move.
Because, the posturing has, of course, already begun.
Oh, yeah.
And Clara is being gorgeous, lush, and lovely, and doing, the way she stands is at Matthew's side, but with one hip just slightly out, and her chest just slightly forward, and she hugs the wife first and does the little European cheek kiss, but when she does it, all of her it's in a almost pin-up pose. So she knows that she's got the hourglass to be looked at. while she elegantly kisses this woman's cheek and her hair spills down. And then she goes to gently kiss his cheek, saying, "It has been too long, and we are so happy that you decided to meet with us. Thank you so much."
West Smith goes statue still when Clara leans in for a kiss. Like, not breathing, not moving, rigid. And Mrs. West Smith, I think her name was Elizabeth, makes a noise of just like not anger, but that just like, my fucking husband. It's that noise. You know? It's the masculine equivalent of this fucking broad. It's just that, just like, ugh.
She was Margaret. She was Elizabeth.
Margaret.
Oh, Elizabeth was the other one?
Elizabeth Wright is Alistair's Elizabeth Wright's brother.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, but yes. Clara shares a look with Margaret when that noise is made, and it's a women's solidarity. Goes, yeah, I know, boys. And then settles in at Matthew's side again. And it wasn't like a kiss on the cheek or it wasn't a kiss on the lips or even the side of the lips. Like, it was a innocent, momentary European cheek kiss.
Yes. How about you two give me Matthew, read a person, and Clara, how about you observe a situation?
All right.
Read a person is intuition, right?
I dare say, yeah.
So that
is perception.
That is 16.
Okay.
And also, I can always ask, if they're lying, which I don't think comes up in this case because they haven't said any words. But maybe it will let me know if they're lying in the future.
To read the result of read a person out loud. On a success, you can ask the GM/player questions about their character anytime during this scene.
Okay, because I also have an interrogator, which is I get an extra question, which is, are you lying? At
some point tonight, you'd be able to say, "Hey,
are they lying?
Are they lying?" Yeah.
Cool.
And what did you get, Clara?
11.
Okay. On a success, you may ask the GM questions about the current situation. Do any of those questions leap out to you, or would you just like some information?
What should I be on the lookout for is kind of the information I'm looking for. So I would use that so I know when best to like act.
Yes. When you pull back from West Smith, he moves, and what you see is that he absolutely moves his nose and mouth and his face into the perfumed wake of your passage.
Mm-hmm.
And he does take a breath in. I mean, it's not like the full cat like open mouth inhale, but he definitely takes a deep breath like through his nose and mouth of your perfume. And so it is pleasantly clear that the dark desire that was instilled in him is still going strong.
Sounds good.
West Smith does Matthew and West Smith shake, I presume?
Oh yeah,
couldn't be otherwise.
There's no smooching here.
Yeah.
I don't know what the normal behavior for in this time frame for Matthew to greet Ms. Westmouth, though. I'm like, what is the normal behavior for that? Because it's not shaking.
Probably kiss the back of her hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you do it.
Yeah.
No, whatever is the appropriate gesture, he does it. And Margaret is her name. It's
Yes, Margaret.
nothing sticking tonight. Yeah,
Margaret.
Margaret gives a look to her husband, and this is one of the things that you read about them, is that she is still vexed with her husband. But it is clear that in the small but important amount of time that you have spent not talking to the Westmiths, that this has become one of those things that, like, she's mad at, but she doesn't think is going to change. So it's just that constant slight irritation whenever it comes up, which is, of course, the healthiest thing.
Oh, yeah.
Super healthy. But so that wedge is still very available to drive between them. Good.
Yep. Yeah.
So everyone sits down. Wine, you know, the first glass of wine of the evening is poured in all of the various I want to turn sommelier into an adjective, but I don't think I can. The appropriate rituals and decisions are made for the wine. I presume that this is going to be one of those no holds barred kind of nights when it comes to things like wine selection and so on.
And champagne to start the evening, because we should
very good.
toast to new business.
To new business. Okay.
And going
all right.
forward. Yes.
That gets Margaret to definitely raise one manicured eyebrow in that, like, to business. And she sits up a little bit. So it's clear that, you know, you knew this before, but it is clear that she is no vanishing wallflower, only there for her husband. She is definitely engaged in interest in what's going on. So Westmith's opening salvo is a little bit unpleasantly blunt, but that's Westmith. And what he says is, after the places we met and the things you saw, I'm surprised we're talking again.
Did you not enjoy yourself at those places?
I did. Of course I did. And good job, Matthew. Good job, because the way you did that definitely got his mind turning and remembering things. So you get that slight kind of distant, yes, I did, for a moment before he finds himself again. And I did, but I am surprised that you find my company agreeable afterwards.
Neither of us are blushing wallflowers.
Oh.
We understand that there's the importance of getting along with all types for business.
It wasn't me on that stage.
The unspoken more's the pity is so blatant across his face. and there is a uncomfortable, unfun, predatory intensity to that look that makes you quite worried. If one cares, that would make a nice person rather worried for the health and safety of that Clara lookalike that he vented his frustrations on.
I find that the importance of gathering connections so that we can all have more power and control over the things that we hold dear makes for interesting bedfellows. We don't have to like each other as bosom buddies to know that we have things in common.
Margaret puts her hand out and very gently and delicately places it on the table and says, let's at least get through a course or two before we start business.
Of course.
And she launches. Now, here is her return fire salvo. She starts asking the host questions. How are you finding Las Vegas? Implying that they have been here longer and it is their city and you are visiting. You can almost hear the sound of the sides of the blades in the fencing match grind again, slide and grind against each other.
Las Vegas is.
Oh no, you go.
Las Vegas has been lovely. I've actually been looking at doing theater out here for quite some time, and I'm glad to see that my instincts were right. I'm putting together a new show. It's probably going to be the biggest premiere on the Strip in quite some time. So I'm incredibly glad to see that we will be calling this our second home for quite some time to come.
Wes Smith, honest to God, rolls his eyes and looks at his wife. Full coast to coast, sunrise, sunset eye roll.
There's, I have to say that Matthew also drops the thing of, well, after New York, we had to you had to continue expanding. Because he's going to drop the fact also that Clara was successful in New York at one point.
Oh, yeah.
This is coast to coast.
True.
Yeah. It's a 4-way fencing match. And that worked. That worked on Mrs. Wes Smith. Mr. Wes Smith doesn't care as much as he probably should.
When he rolls his eyes like that, though, Clara has slipped her shoe off beneath the table, and her toes just gently brush the outside of his ankle. And she gives the smile of, I'm looking forward to this being our second home. We'll be around so much more.
It is obvious beyond any question that I think it was Alistair Wes Smith.
Yes.
That Alistair Wes Smith is a creature-driven lower sea creature. Is a creature driven by his urges and habits. He is very much he is very much one of the personifications of if I want, I have. He is both in what you've seen and what you've kind of picked up from him in the way and the people that you've talked to is he is very much I want it, I will have it. I will not wait. And so he is not accustomed to having to restrain himself that is not, that his natural state is not one of restraint. His natural state is one of aggressive action. To the point where it's almost like, I want it to be clear that the vibe that Wes Smith gives off is not a healthy one. That this is not like, this is a passionate man who follows his gut. Like, this is not your instinct ridden protagonist. This is a man operated entirely by his hungers and the skills he has developed to sate those hungers. That is it. He has a series of urges and a series of techniques to get those urges fulfilled. And so when you do that, you can watch his hand twitch in a very like he is the beginning of the process of reaching across the table and grabbing her. It's just one muscle flare of that motion, but it's there.
All she's trying to do is to keep him slightly off balance conversationally, so Matthew can always have the upper hand in this conversation.
Yes, I would say that it's going to be fairly easy between object of desire and your deliberate use of it. I think that you will probably do just fine. Later on, we'll probably roll influence other whenever we get to an inflection point where things might go one way or the other. But so far, it's fine.
So I'd like to use one of my questions.
Go for it.
Which is on Ms. Westman. Or Mrs., I guess. Which is, what would you wish I would do? Because he's starting to, like, at this point, he's like, the real brains of this operation is her. She's not necessarily able to function as that solely power-wise because of the fact that we're in the fucking 1950s. But
yeah,
the person that is steering this plane
mm-hmm.
in a direction that I would actually want it to go is probably this person. And if we can just get the person who we don't necessarily want to be steering this plane distracted enough, which we certainly can. Like, so he's starting to look at the focus on her because he trusts that Clara can keep the focus of Alistair quite well.
Yes, indeedly do she can. Generally, she wants one thing that is obvious and another thing that is more subtle. The thing that's obvious is that she wants Clara to fucking stop it. There is probably something that these characters more than comfortable amount of understanding of. There is something extremely unpleasant about the other woman doing it in front of you. Reminds you of your married days, Matthew, a little bit. The couple of times that your wife came to dinner at the house and Clara had a couple drinks too many and forgot to maintain decorum.
He knows that look.
Yeah, and it is definitely a like. She's uncomfortably resigned. This is not a healthy relationship. This is not like, you know, ethical swinging or anything else like that. She's not like, no, honey, go have a good time. Come back by tomorrow. Love you. Bye. This is like, my husband is going to try to fuck this woman and I cannot stop him. And they're like, I wish he would just put another coat of paint on it. You know, hide it a little. Don't do it in front of me, please. So there's that. And then there's also you're not really sure, but it really seems like she is very open to coming to terms. She isn't, excuse me, she isn't aggressive. Like she doesn't have the like, I just want you to go away. I don't even understand why we're talking. She's open-minded to something. She's definitely willing to come to the bargaining table in addition to the dinner table. And I feel that probably what she wants at the end of the day is a de-escalation. Because she feels like the Van Horsts and the West Smiths could easily escalate into something very destructive and violent. Maybe not personally destructive and violent, but in terms of influence and friends and people, destructive and violent. And that's not what she wants.
So Matthew is going to shift his demeanor slightly.
Okay.
He's still going to be directing most of his conversation and interactions, of course, to Alistair, because that is what is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that he talks and the way that he phrases his questions and he phrases his conversation starts including her more and more. And every time that there's a little jerk from Alistair because someone is playing footsie, perhaps, who knows? You know, no one knows. Who could ever suspect such? There's a look that he gives because right now we came in as like solidarity, and they are fractured. He's keeping the solidarity, but the look he gives, and it's hard for him to manage, is that of, I guess my sister's at it again. Because he's using the fact that in public, he's just her brother. So if she's getting frisky with someone else's husband, well, he can't really do anything about that. But he can certainly give a look to Mrs. Westsmith that's kind of like, he doesn't have the same jealousy, of course, that she would. But man, he gets how it is sometimes when you've just got those people who aren't thinking with their heads.
With their urges.
There are people who are thinking with their urges. He's gonna have to apologize about this later, he feels, but like he's definitely using that. Like,
no, it's perfect. It's very much
100% like the sort of like, well, I guess the two of us are the ones who are going to have to actually talk business, but I need to talk through your husband for us to be able to do that. So I guess that's where we're at, is the vibe he's trying to get through.
Dig it.
Trusting that Alistair is going to be distracted enough that it's going to be hard for him to necessarily notice the small, like, minuter details.
Yeah. I'm going to say that between the roles and the smart play, Alistair is definitely not all here. It's actually probably the appropriate description of Alistair's brain is the Fry meme from Futurama, where he's just standing there twitching and foaming at the mouth, just going like that's pretty much his brain, because it becomes more and more clear, even at the very beginning of this meal, through the initial decisions made with the selection of drinks. There are a couple of choices. It's a price fix menu, but there are a few A's or B's to be decided. And even in those early stages of the meal, you can tell that Westsmith is a creature for whom delayed gratification is both alien and quite possibly a sin. He is a person who not only gets what he wants, but he gets what he wants as soon as he wants it, which isn't great. Claire's going to have to walk a very thin tightrope of come here, keep away, which she is perfectly skilled enough to do, but it is a tightrope as opposed to a 4x4. So yeah, I kind of lost track of where the conversation was in my head, I have to admit.
No, I mean, so did Alistair, so it's okay. I think that, like, where we're at right now is Alistair getting worked up like nobody's business, and then Matthew having a conversation. You said Margaret?
Margaret.
Yes.
Yeah. Having a conversation with Margaret via her husband.
Yeah, we haven't started business yet.
Yeah, we haven't really started business.
Like, we should order our meals and actually have some food, and so we have been laying the foundation for when we start business to be very much in charge of that conversation.
Now, there's been those initial opening salvos, those initial questions that is the groundwork for business. You know, oh, do you plan on staying where you're staying? Are you looking at a house? Are you looking at maybe somewhere to rent? We know a couple people that are out of town. They've got an empty, beautiful house for a couple of months. You know, if you want us to network on your behalf, we can do that because we know more people than you. Jab, jab. What are your favorite shows? Have you been to this one? Oh, name drop. This performer invited us to this. Was a lovely time. It is all of that brutal, subtle, highest society back and forthing where money has stopped being the object that has now simply become the tool. And now it is names and favors and debts and connections. It's that level. And so this is where you guys live. I mean, this is absolutely the correct atmospheric height for you guys, but it is definitely probably the first time in a while that you've played the game at your natural level.
There's something refreshing about it.
Yeah.
Matthew. Like, and he lets that show. Like,
okay.
That it's nice being able to speak to in some ways a kindred spirits. You know, to find their kind of people. And I think that that's what he's going to try to use to see into actual business talk.
Okay. I didn't prepare a menu for tonight, so I'm going to say it's probably 5 courses. So slightly after the main course and going kind of into the denouement of the meal, desserts and digestives. The business begins. And so some beautiful Italian desserts come out on tiny, beautiful, delicate china. The stuff, the so thin you can almost see through it kind of china. And it is very nice because it's one thing to get a 5-star chef. It is one thing to put him in a restaurant and a kitchen that is capable of supporting his skill set. That is possible, but it is something else entirely to go through the deeply personal and private labor of assembling the china at this level. It's like, you can find a chef and you can hire him for a while. You can throw money at a building until it turns into the greatest kitchen in the world. But once again, if you don't know the right people, first of all, you don't even know that this china exists, that these patterns and makers of stuff like this exist, let alone be able to buy some. So once again, this is another place where they are manifesting the edge of power where money is not enough. And this is where the new money is separated from the old money. This Matthew is where the only friend you made at your first dinner the kind of the middle, the wholesaler, I think is what we called him.
Oof.
Where this is where he gets filtered out. This is when he becomes chaff and debris and sediment, because it takes generations to know these people. It takes time. You just can't walk into a place like this on Fifth Avenue with their sign clearly out and just say, I would like. That doesn't happen. And so it feels very much in this moment like you are in your element. And it feels good, my dude. It is nice.
Once the waiter goes and we are alone in our corner of this very private, very upscale restaurant with dessert, Clara looks and goes, we could continue to gently fight, to not get along in certain ways, and it would never be public because none of us are that gauche. But it would be annoying to both of us in the long run. It would be distracting from what we all ultimately want to do. That is succeed and see our families grow and our power grow monetarily and in other ways, I suspect. What do you both intend on doing with what is here of the Royal Phoenix Society?
Now I need you to roll that influence other for me, Clara.
Of course.
Because this is when we need to know how good your footsie is.
I was gonna say, can I do help other? And I was like, guess not. Matthew adding a foot.
Oh, this is gonna matter if influence other is charisma. Oh, thank goodness, it is charisma. So that is a 16. All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I looked at my dice and I'm like, my charisma's a 4. Please tell me this one is charisma.
Yeah, they do what you ask. All right. And I presume that what you want to have happen is that Wes Smith is too distracted to be a fully conscious player in this piece of the grand game. Or what's...
I mean, yeah, she wants the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so the distraction helps because they're always shadows and mirrors, and giving up the whole truth is showing your entire hand.
Mm-hmm.
And if they know the whole truth and they know the West Smith goals, then they can manipulate them or like work together for them instead of like being like, oh, we don't know the entire plan here, so they can try to manipulate us. So she just wants the whole truth so we can figure out how best to work together. Because ultimately, Clara thinks the West Smiths probably want power here, and they're interested in magic, but that's okay. We want to get to Metropolis. If the West Smiths end up being our viziers here and getting power for themselves, we can go on. So we end up getting all the ultimate power and we move to Metropolis and they're happy and we're happy. This might not be a bad relationship.
No.
We need to know what they want and we need to know what they know. So that's Claire's goal in asking this question.
Okay. West Smith's response is probably the thing that gives the Van Horsts the sign that he is not thinking with the correct spongy tissues. Because his answer is inappropriately blunt. And he says, well, frankly, after the slaughter in Pittsburgh, we haven't been able to really get anything. There was a drop-off of interest. Pittsburgh was one of the major hubs of the Phoenix Society for reasons I'm sure you understand. And a slaughter like that doesn't make people feel good. You see, societies in the stock exchange depend both on the goodwill and optimism of those invested. And remember, killed his cousin or his sister. And what happened in Pittsburgh caused our stock price to drop quite significantly. And as such, we have been focused more on, and she puts her hand, and his wife puts her hand on his arm in that like, shut up, dear, hand gesture, and says, we've been focusing on local matters. There's a lot of new things growing in Las Vegas, and we've been focused very much on making sure that we grow alongside them. With some of our contacts no longer reachable, we have found ourselves having to find other avenues. And as I'm sure you figured out by now, organized alternative structures of power abound in this city, and we have found a great deal of success working with them in a more obfuscated capacity than simply buying everything on the strip.
There's one thing that doesn't necessarily rise and fall with stocks, and that's knowledge. Perhaps people with different social cachet can assist in ways, and we can pool some of our efforts.
Well, of course, we all know the power of knowledge. We all understand the amazing things that can be done if you know the right things at the right time. But knowledge is such a broad word, Mr. Van Horst. And so what kind of knowledge are you looking for? Which dealers are a little bit looser, or which machines pay out better, or... Clearly an obvious, distraction ploy.
Please. The Phoenix Society wasn't based on that kind of... You know it. Don't insult me when I'm not insulting you.
Wes Smith visibly twitches. His face visibly twitches in like a spasm of rage, and says, "You didn't get enough knowledge from the corpses of your..." And his wife smacks him on the hand. Not even a gentle stop it. Like a honest to God, full body, hand up to her head and down smack. And I need to remind you, that Wes Smith is a hemophiliac.
Yeah.
And so that was an action of many layers of intensity.
We don't need to sully such a lovely dinner with such talk, do we?
And he is looking at his hand at the already rapidly expanding pool of blood under it. And he's a little bit less worried about that than a standard hemophiliac might be.
Mm-hmm.
It would not surprise you if he has additional levels of something or other to make that not quite as lethal. Maybe something from Rasputin, we're not sure. But he glares at his wife, and for the first time in every time that you've met him, she glares back.
Ooh.
And it was very much a like, you know why the fuck I'm mad, and she looks back at him with a yeah, and I know, shut the fuck up about it. Like, it was absolutely a like, you guys watched an old argument light up right here, right now. And he says, well, I guess we do not have to bring up certain parts of the past. I beg your pardon. It was gauche of me.
You have brought it up. And so I will tell you that I am sorry for what happened to your sister. I am sorry that we were put in the position that we had to defend our lives, and that your sister was put in a position to be there and to be hurt, to be slaughtered, as you've said, because all of us were set up in ways by forces none of us fully understood. When we should have known, we should have had the knowledge. When our names were put in that book, we were children. Did you know that, Alistair? Did you know that, Margaret? And she's really looking at the wife when she asks that question.
The response to that is shockingly multi-layered. This is the first time that you've seen shame. Now remember, you guys rolled great, so this is why you're getting all of this information.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not only do you see a little bit of like, yes, I know it's uncomfortable and we all try to pretend that that's not true, that kind of thing, but also there is a personal sense of loss when you brought that up. There is almost mourning when you say that they put your names in the books when you were children. We know.
I know that you lost things that night, and I suspect you lost things long before that too. We lost our father more than once because of this business. We are done losing things because of things we did not choose that were out of our control. We are now choosing to be in control. And we now have knowledge. And my brother invites you to a beautiful dinner. He is set up with an open hand and an olive branch. Because none of us should be put in that position again. We are all better. And I promise you, the Van Horsts will be better. You can join us on this journey. Or you can't. That's up to you.
Matthew will take off his left glove.
Oh, okay.
And just quietly put his hands together on the table. And look at them both in the eyes, one after the other. Say, don't you want to be more in control of what you have?
The shining, iridescent, silvery chrome metal of Metropolis that your hand is made out of snatches their attention, almost literally as if there were hooks in their eyes and mind, dragging them down. There's an impossible gravity to the realization. And they both... That causes a profound reassessment in them, and they both know it. And they don't do the full look at each other, but there's the look out of the corner of your eye, like, you see what I see, yeah, okay, fine. And Margaret says, well, I suppose a great deal of that depends on what exactly you want to do.
Matthew will take his glove and put it back on, and take his time doing so. We want to rule as we always were meant to. And not only here. But that can't be done without help.
You want to sit on the thrones of the great city. Is that what you're saying?
We will sit on the thrones of the great city. You can be a part of that, or not, but we will.
In the end, you have a choice to make.
It's audacious, bordering on the insane. Do you know what's there? Do you know what the Archons are?
We've been there.
Twice, as of late. As for
Have you been there through Vegas, or did you go through Pittsburgh?
Yes.
I was not aware that Las Vegas had progressed to a level where it had formed a connection to the city.
It hasn't.
Sometimes when there isn't a pathway, you have to make one. This is not something that is a choice for us. This is fate. This is our destiny. This is what we must be and what we know we will be. Your choice is whether or not you want to be a part of this, or if you want to simply continue trying to take what you can, take the scraps that you have.
We're going to need to think about this and talk about this in private.
I would never want you to make this decision rashly.
Let's they're unnerved. They are properly unnerved at this point. There is that was some shit, capital S, like they were not ready for that level of just like
the Van Horsts just were like, we're full on crazy.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no.
Yeah.
The Royal Phoenix Society put our names in a book and set us up to be godchildren, and said we didn't have a choice in our destiny. So we decided to make a choice and decided we would be godchildren.
Yeah.
And fuck you all, we're gonna go be gods on our own. But that sounds good.
Yeah, you guys like gold-plated killdozered it.
Yeah.
While we're slightly broken, can I get a read a person? Because I'm trying to figure out if sharing a bit more information is going to be a smart idea or not.
Okay. I think Matthew also has at least a move or two left on his read a person.
As well, yeah.
So let's get a bunch of information now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have one, and one of the things that I'm trying to figure out is whether or not letting them, like whether or not with the information they have that they would try to fuck us up, or that they actually are going to that they're actually thinking about working with us.
At this point, for your own safety, regardless of whether or not they concede, for your own safety, you need to convince them that you are for real and not simply overeducated crazy people.
I mean, that's why he took off the glove.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going to try to see whether or not, while Clara does a thing, I'm going to check a thing.
Okay. My read a person, I got a 12, so middle, so it means I get one question.
Yes.
I guess I'm going to use a how could I get you to see that I'm for real. What I actually wanted to ask or figure out was Clara was going to share the information of, we have a lot of power. We've been able to go, I can open gateways, we have this, but you ask us, do we know exactly what the Archons are? The answer is no. You killed our father and you kept us in the dark. We do not have all the training we need. That's why we need each other. But that's a level of vulnerability that makes us look weak.
Yeah, I worry about that one.
Yeah, so I'm not certain that actually sharing that is wise or not.
No, it's not. It's definitely, it's the difference between I need you, it's the difference between I need you to teach me and let's join forces.
Yep, okay. Yep. I'm glad I asked that question, and then that was my role. Cool.
Yeah.
So my question is, and you can say no and that's fine, is what we just did a show of leadership?
Yeah, I would say overall over the course of the night, you are definitely using and manifesting leadership skills.
Then what Matthew is going to do while they're having this moment of like, are we going to just be like write these guys off as like crazy people or not? I'm gonna click on awe-inspiring.
All right, go for it.
Yeah.
I use majesty.
That makes sense.
So I got a 12, but then I add my charisma, so that is a 15.
Nice. Let me look that one up because you haven't.
I don't usually use that one.
Yeah, you haven't put that particular one on the table lately. 82. I bought glasses, and the glare protection is like coming off them.
Oh
Oh,
no.
So now I get to like show my age. Okay, so you got people around you accept you as their leader and listen to you take an. All right, you two.
This is what Matthew and Clara were built to do.
Yes,
we were built
absolutely.
for
Being the powerhouses in.
we're not as good at Bethany with like magic things, but we're good at getting people to listen to us.
Yes. All right. They have to talk.
Yeah.
They're still absolutely like, we have to talk. But the look that they give definitely leads into the like, you know that you're going to buy the car. You just want to make sure that you didn't miss anything. You want to check you want to check the Kelly Blue Book. You want to get the Carfax. You want to do all of those little things. You want to do your due diligence. But you also know that you're probably going to buy the car. So it's that definitely like, we'll need to talk about this, and we'll need to generate some formal language for all of our sakes about this.
Of course. And then he'll like eat a meringue because we're like,
Yeah.
let's go back to dessert. Like, oh, this is lovely.
Yeah, just one giant decadent bite of tiramisu or whatever it is.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah, because no, they just give you a giant paper bag full of Zeppelis. It's like...
For what it's worth, I'm glad we got this far.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that we have the potential to be better and far more powerful than what came before us. They made mistakes, and we've learned from them. All of us.
Yeah, it's just that like, we need to talk.
Oh, I know.
Like, you know, it's they hit the point where they know that the next thing that happens is negotiations.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're not going to start negotiations right now.
Yeah, like I feel like Matthew like veers the conversation back into like, we're going to go back into like pleasantries so that we can pack up and go with like some semblance of like dignity on their side.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he actually does make that clear. Like it's obvious in how his demeanor is and how he like brings things back. This is meant to give them some semblance of normalcy again, and some semblance of, so that they can leave without like dragging their tails between their legs.
Yes. Now we're all going to remind each other that we are all masters of this earth, that we are all up there, that all of this is just big people stuff. And you do a masterful job of it, because I think you guys haven't rolled anything troublesome at all the whole night.
I mean, part of it is that we keep rolling charisma, and both of us have really high charisma. So like when we roll low, it's like, well,
yeah, it's
we
what
got a
we started
middling.
to do. Even if we're rolling like 7s or 8s, I'm still pushing into the middle.
I'm not mad. I'm entertained.
I mean, I'm just amused because like, hit us with violence. Oh no, actually, Clara's better at that. Hit me with violence and I'm fucked.
Yes. So it's almost 10:30.
Yeah.
I feel
Which
like
would
that's a
be
good.
Well, I wanna leave us with a little bit of a zinger.
Ooh, okay.
So it's getting definitely late into the night now. You know, the few tables. So because themes, there is the only other table that is still here is essentially on the opposite side of this small restaurant. And so Claire is really the only one that can see them and the door.
Mm-hmm.
What she sees is a young couple in their early 20s, clearly probably on maybe their third date. You know, there's some familiarity there, there's some comfort there, there's like an inside joke or two, but there's still a lot of that like fresh dating energy. So there's a little kind of, there's an effervescence about them. You know, and the young lady's kind of like playing with the wine glass, and the guy's kind of got that slightly like, you know, I really like you and you're really pretty. There's that dorky, there's that kind of that slightly awkward masculine dorkiness to his movements. And they're talking and they're having a great time, and it is very obvious to you that they are going to go home with each other. And that they have already decided this, and now they're just enjoying the rituals of going home together. But they have something you don't. You know, when they walk to their car, she's going to be able to put her arm through his arm in that way. And it's a little bittersweet. And so it is kind of with that little bit of acid in the mix, when the door not literally bursts open, but damn near bursts open. I mean, you guys are here late. You guys are like, you know, those are the two lovebirds that are here until someone chases them out, and you guys are the foretop that never leaves.
Yeah.
The unkillable foretop, my ancient foe. And so it's when someone kind of bursts in the door, it's not really that much of a surprise, because realistically, it would be reasonable to expect no one to be here at this point. You know? And so when he walks in the door, he's a little bit loud, he's a little bit brash. But damn, if he doesn't have a cast to his face that is familiar. Which is and it is unpleasantly familiar. Perhaps it's just because you have the Phoenix Society on the mind. Maybe you're, you know, looking for things that aren't there, but there's something about his facial structure that reminds you a little bit of someone that you saw at the Phoenix Society. And he go.
Oh, no, you keep going.
And he kind of walks in, and you know, one of the waiters kind of comes in from around the back with his hands together, and that like, can I help you, person who's here 2 hours after we close? He says, yeah, a friend of mine called it, and we were just going to take some food home. We put in an order. I was like, yeah, I know you guys don't normally do that, but you know, friend of a friend and all that. And the waiter says, well, let me talk to the kitchen and see if they've received your phone call. I haven't heard anything about it. Sass, sass, sass. And can I have a name? And he says, yes, it's Wright Donahue. And at that point, Alistair Westsmith's hand convulsively, like, clenches around the wine glass and breaks it in his hand. And it is that sound that makes this young man turn around. And he is young, and he is handsome, and he is rich, because he has that glow that only eating well every day of your life and not having to work in a steel mill, you know, he has that glow of privilege and luxury around him. It's almost physical glow around him. And he turns around, and he's got kind of he's wearing a suit, but the jacket's a little bit tuxedo-y, and he has stuffed into like the pocket of his coat something purple, something royal purple. It's kind of hang out. Clearly looks like it's something that's too big for his pocket. Clearly it's not like a pocket square, but it's like a larger piece of purple cloth that's been stuffed in his pocket. And he turns around and he gives this scintillating, unctuous, just passive-aggressive smile. Says, "Oh, the Westmiths! I didn't know you were here. Hello, darlings." And he comes over and he's full of verve and vigor, and he's just, and Alistair like stands up very awkwardly, holding his now dripping blood hand at the side, and says, "Hello, Andrew. It is a pleasure to see you. I am surprised that you're here tonight." That sort of,
There goes, "Margaret, you'll have to introduce me." And all of the female pinup beauty energy she was shooting at Alistair before, she's now shooting at Donahue.
Yes.
Hoping that Margaret's going to pick up on that and back up her play.
The look that Margaret gives you is not the one you expected, because this was you have done something wrong. That like, oh shit, you have done a thing that we are not going to be able to undo.
Uh-oh.
Oh. Well, smiling and primping anyway, because we're in.
Yeah, but it's definitely a social uh-oh, but it's that just like, fuck. We are apparently going to step on that landmine tonight. And so it's just, Andrew, please allow me to introduce to you, they're from Pittsburgh, Matthew and Clara Van Horst. And he pauses, full body pause, and says, "Oh, how interesting to see you all here. So interesting of dinner guests. I'm shocked. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Andrew Wright Donahue. I'm Bertrand's younger brother."
A pleasure.
All mine, I'm sure. Now, and then at this point, the waiter comes out with with a paper bag, with a bag that clearly is not like a delivery bag. Like clearly, this is a use. Like this place doesn't fucking do takeout.
Yeah.
And so he says, "Oh, the food. Look, it's lovely to see you, and I'm sure we will see more of each other later, but right now I'm going to have to go. Thank you." And let us remember that Bertrand Wright was the person that tried to bring you into the Phoenix Society shortly after the death of your father. And I believe that was one of the people that Bethany turned into...
Just goo.
Yeah,
Just
aerosolized baloney, I think was the...
Yeah.
It was also the name that got you out here.
Yes,
Yep.
it was.
Yes, it was. And so you have a very brief moment. You're not really going to be able to do a lot of social something because clearly there's a lot going on that you're not going to be able to unpick. But is there anything you'd like to do in the few brief moments that you have before he leaves? It's okay to say no. It's a definitely a surprising situation.
I want to roll influence other and object of desire because Clara wants to set it up where she can get a string on this guy. She wants to be able to get him back in her atmosphere, and that's the way she knows how to do it.
Object of desire is a flaw, though.
It is. Yeah, well, it's the if I'm rolling influence other, I feel like I should also roll that. Maybe the interaction isn't long enough, and the object of desire doesn't necessarily have to be I want to fuck you. It might be I just need to kill you. I desire you dead.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that, and
I think it's going to take a little bit longer than this brief moment.
Interaction.
Yeah. It's we can just say, oh, it's lovely to meet you, and let that sit.
Can I try the influence other?
Yeah, but you're going to have to essentially break a 15 to get anything.
Yeah.
Because this guy really, really, really wants to get away.
She doesn't even want him to stay. She just wants to stick in his head.
Okay.
Of the, oh, she's not what I was expecting. Why can I not stop thinking of her? Like, that is the entire goal, is to leave a lasting impression of how could that beautiful thing murder my brother?
Perfect Bene Gesserit behavior.
Exactly. Yes. I didn't break a 15 though.
Okay.
Yeah. So
he'll remember you, but not with the thought-snatching intensity that you wanted.
Yeah.
And then he power walks out. And as Margaret tuts in very real anger and fear and reaches into her husband's jacket and pulls out a handkerchief and stuffs it into his hand and grumps at him, you know, in that, like, you hurt yourself, you idiot sort of way.
Clara sits down, pours whatever booze is left into all of their fucking glasses. Well, that was certainly not the way I wanted to end a very lovely evening otherwise. That being said, if that man is in this town, as he clearly is, whatever we all end up doing, he would have found out eventually. I'd frankly rather having all the cards on the table, and then we figure out how to deal with it in the future, however we all decide to go forward. It's good knowing what hands are in play. Now we know there's another hand.
He had his sash in his pocket, says West Smith, like, you know, applying pressure to his cut hand. He had his sash in his pocket.
So other people were making moves.
You only wear that for a meeting.
A meeting that you weren't invited to.
Exactly.
I see.
Well, we need to get him home. I'm sure you know he's got the family affliction, so
go home.
We've got all the bits and bobs we need at home to make this not be a problem. And
I look forward to speaking to you later.
Yes, me too. It was so nice to speak with you in a much different time and place. Thank you so much for having us.
Have a lovely night.
I mean, goodbye. Don't worry, we'll take care of the bill. Da 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 da. And the ritual of goodbye-ing.
Yes. Oh.
And I presume you two leave shortly thereafter?
Yeah, I feel like this is a good stopping point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a good sort of thing.
Yeah.
I want to add one more piece of flavor text, and then we will go into decompression and everything else. When you two walk out of the door, David is standing at the entrance. Not in front of the car. The car's, a little bit over there, wherever he parked it. but he is standing at the entrance and he is looking with terrible intensity towards the directions the Westsmiths walked out of. That man was bleeding.
Yes, he was.
He did it to himself.
Are we well?
We are.
We have things to discuss in the car.
Then I shall bring you your car.
Thank you, Dave.
And he turns and walks away. And it is the first time, it has been a brief amount of time, but this is the first time since you guys have come back that you have seen David activated.
And as David walks away, Clara leans over to Matthew and goes, David's a hunter. We need to describe Andrew Wright Donahue to him exactly down to the last inch, and David needs to hunt that man.
Clara, we need to talk about this in the car.
I'm not going to command David to do that, though.
I understand. But this is not something that I'm going to talk about in front of the restaurant where someone just left.
And into that awkward silence, the beautiful car rolls up. And David gets out and opens the door. And David's face is that servant's face of like, things are weird. And if I have to resolve the weird on Mr. Van Horst's behalf, I am emotionally prepared to do so. But until then, I am a perfect servant who holds the door and goes deaf, blind, and dumb to everything happening behind my head.
Matthew will actually open the car door for Clara.
Okay.
She'll slip in quietly, and she's quiet.
And then he'll get in as well.
David's probably at this point got a good nose for when Matthew wants to do that kind of stuff for Clara. They've probably figured out some sort of very simple signal. You know, something like "let me get the door," or a little hand wave, or a gesture.
The up nod of, I just shut down Clara, so I want to be nice to her. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And David gives you a yes, I understand, and gets in the car, and you roll away into a beautiful Las Vegas night, back into the neon and the shine and the new metal. This outpost of Metropolis in the middle of the screaming cannibal desert. And that's where we will roll our credits.